Can belief exist without symbols? When a journalist questions his convictions, Elon Musk's response will challenge everything you think you know about authenticity. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation as the cameras adjusted their focus. Elon sat across from the journalist, his posture firm, exuding quiet confidence. The reporter, David, a veteran known for his relentless questioning, believed this would be just another routine interview. He had done his research on Elon. Musk was known for his unwavering beliefs, the kind that defined his actions and decisions. But today, David sought to test those beliefs, searching for any inconsistencies. As the overhead lights hummed and the cameras started rolling, David projected an air of control. "So, Elon," he began smoothly, "you often speak about your core principles, how they shape your life. But something struck me today." He leaned in slightly, his voice laced with subtle accusation. "No symbols, no visible proof of your so-called beliefs. Maybe it was all just for show." The words were sharp, calculated, but Elon didn't flinch. His hands rested calmly, his expression unchanged. A pause lingered between them, but David expected a reaction. Hesitation, uncertainty, maybe even frustration. He had seen it before. But not from Elon. To Elon, belief wasn't something that required validation through outward displays. It wasn't about what he wore, the emblems he displayed, or the gestures people expected. It was embedded in his actions, his choices, and, most importantly, in how he treated those around him. Yet David assumed that without a symbol, Musk's convictions were somehow weaker. But instead of reacting defensively, Elon met David's gaze with the same calm, unwavering presence. He had encountered skepticism before, questions designed to provoke or unsettle. But this one was different. This wasn't about him. It was about something much deeper. David adjusted in his seat, sensing the weight of Elon's silence. He had expected discomfort, perhaps an apology for not fitting into society's expectations. But Elon wasn't here to conform. "It's just odd," David continued, pressing his advantage. "You talk about principles, but without a sign, without something tangible. How do people know you're not just pretending?" Elon recognized the trap. David wanted vulnerability, something to exploit. He wanted a moment of doubt, a crack in the armor. But Musk's confidence wasn't for show. It wasn't for public approval or external validation. It was his and his alone. A tense silence stretched between them. David, growing impatient, watched as Musk remained composed. He had anticipated defensiveness, perhaps a justification. Instead, Elon let the silence do the work. The weight of the unspoken made David shift uncomfortably. "Well, Elon," David said, leaning in, "many people wear their beliefs on their sleeves. They claim to stand for something, but their actions say otherwise. So tell me, why should anyone believe you're different?" Elon didn't blink. He adjusted his posture slightly, his voice measured. "I don't display my beliefs to prove anything," he said, his tone deliberate. "My actions speak for themselves, louder than any symbol ever could." But David wasn't ready to let it go. "Actions, huh?" he smirked. "But what about when those actions are misinterpreted? When people assume you're driven by ego rather than conviction?" He leaned forward, watching Elon's every move. "Doesn't that bother you?" Elon's expression remained unchanged, but there was a subtle shift, a quiet intensity. He wasn't angry, but there was a flicker of clarity in his eyes. "Belief isn't about what others think of me," he said, his voice still calm but carrying more weight now. "It's about the work I do, the impact I make. If you're looking for a spectacle, you won't find one here. I don't answer to an audience, and I don't need validation." David wasn't satisfied. So, you're saying it's just about you? That the world should just figure it out on its own? Elon's lips curved into a faint smile. No, he said softly. It's about making a difference, even if no one sees it. It's about standing by your convictions, even when people don't understand. David's expression darkened. He had expected an easier target, someone who would crack under scrutiny. Instead, he was met with an unshakable certainty that made him uneasy. But the world doesn't just accept things blindly, Elon, David pushed. What if people don't see your good? What if they judge you? Elon leaned forward slightly, his voice dropping to a near whisper. Then that's their choice, he said, his words deliberate. But I won't change who I am to fit their expectations. That's what belief is, isn't it? Staying true to yourself, even when it's inconvenient. For the first time in the interview, David hesitated. He had expected defiance, perhaps an outburst. Instead, Musk's calm response made him question his own assumptions. The interview had changed. What had started as an attempt to dismantle Elon's convictions had turned into something else entirely. David had sought to challenge him, but in doing so, he had been forced to confront his own biases. Elon glanced momentarily at a framed picture on the studio wall, a landscape of a quiet, distant town. It reminded him of a place he had once visited, where people lived not for validation, but for something greater. That was the essence of what he believed. He let out a slow breath, feeling the weight of the moment settle. Faith, conviction, belief, whatever name one gave it, it wasn't a performance. It was the quiet, consistent actions taken every single day. The silence in the studio grew heavier. David, known for his quick wit, was uncharacteristically quiet. He had expected to expose something, but instead, he had revealed a truth that unsettled even him. Elon had won, but not through argument. He had won by being unwavering, by refusing to conform to an expectation placed upon him. David finally broke the silence, his voice lacking its usual sharpness. "Well, Elon," he said, forcing a smile, "I think we've covered enough for today." The words felt empty. The interview had not gone as he had planned. As the crew began to pack up, Elon stood, his presence as steady as it had been at the beginning. The producer, who had watched the exchange silently, finally spoke. "I've seen a lot of interviews," he admitted, "but that was different." Musk smiled, but there was no arrogance in it, just quiet understanding. "It wasn't about changing anything," he said. "It was about staying true to who I am." As Elon walked out of the studio, the message was clear, not just for David, but for everyone watching. True belief doesn't need a stage. It doesn't need approval. It simply is. The final shot faded to black, leaving the audience with a lingering question. How do you live your truth in a world that constantly tries to define it for you?